Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So as you can tell from the intro, I have spent the day cooking, and I know that may not seem significant to some, but for me it's quite significant because I used to cook all the time, and cooking is something that I've always really enjoyed doing. It's one of my ways of connecting with my creativity, with connecting with nature, and just getting in touch with really that feminine side of things as well. And it's actually something that has been kind of neglected for, well, really, if I was going to be completely honest, at least a year, if not a little bit longer. Now, that's not to say I don't cook in that sort of time frame, but my cooking has been really quick and simple foods with the odd meal here and there that was a little bit more fancy and in-depth, whereas today I actually spent a long time doing things from scratch. So for example, you would have seen I made pasta from scratch. So I used to do this nearly every weekend. I would spend some time doing some kind of meal from scratch, whether it be pasta or pies and pastries and things like that from scratch. And it's a way that I really just sort of felt grounded and present in the moment. And obviously with food, it's also one of our ways that we nurture our body and support the energy system as well. And even though my journey has been quite spiritual for the last, 3 years now, my body and the physical self has been quite neglected. And this is something that I've been starting to work on for this past month or so, to start reconnecting and getting in touch with that version of myself again. And what I kind of wanted to just have a quick chat about today was that aspect of getting in touch with the divine feminine. Now, I know the spiritual community is all about the divine feminine in general, but the divine feminine in many ways can kind of be a little bit neglected even with women. So I know this is about getting in touch with sensuality, with the yin energy, and just that receptivity. And ironically, even though I identify as a woman and in that heavy feminine energy, it's actually something that I struggle with quite a lot, especially because my mindset for the past 2 years now has been on business. And when we start focusing on business, even if it is from a spiritual perspective, as a spiritual business, we start getting into that yang energy, the masculine energy. And this is something that, we have divine feminine and divine masculine within us all. It's the yin and the yang, it's the balance, it's the dark and the light, it's all of these aspects within us. And when we are taking action and trying to build momentum and grow something, we are working with the masculine energy. And in general, this is actually something that I identify with a lot more in my life than the feminine. So one of my lessons that I'm starting to become aware of in this lifetime is to actually get in touch with that divine feminine and embrace the divine feminine. It sounds easier said than done, because obviously I'm working with things like spirituality and tarot and astrology, and even through to like my gardening and creativity and things like that. And you would think that that naturally means that I'm embracing that feminine side of things, but in many ways I am still struggling and still learning how to actually embrace the feminine from a positive perspective. Now, there is aspects within my past that I would have operated more in a toxic feminine, I suppose you could say. It's probably not the right term, but it's that darker energy, the more sexual energy. I mean, we all sort of sit with that energy at some point in our lives, and probably didn't come from the most positive of places. And it's actually at this point in time that I'm now learning how to heal that aspect within myself, and in the process helping to heal others as well. Now, the other thing that is quite significant is, for me, not only am I trying to run a business and build a business from the ground up that is based on spirituality, I'm also stepping into a leadership role. Many of you who have been following my journey would have already known that I have my own private spiritual group, which is in Patreon. If you're looking at joining, the link will be down below. And for those of you who are in my group, we are the Fellowship of Shadows and Light. Hello. But this is a group that I have stepped into my leadership role, and this is something that I still struggle with and will probably continue to struggle with for quite some time. Stepping into a leadership role for me is filled with a lot of doubt and fear of being that false leader. Is the best way to explain it. It's whether or not, what I have to offer, even down to doing tarot readings on my channel. There's this sense of inferiority, I should say, that comes in, and these doubts that step in when, of feeling like, am I actually doing the right thing? Am I actually giving the right advice? Who am I to be able to give this advice to other people? There's all these doubts that come in place. And, from a logical perspective, I understand that that's not true, that I have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share, and especially through receiving feedback from people and the support that I give, and understanding that it is helping other people. But I still struggle with stepping into that aspect in my life and stepping into that role. And that really comes down to a lot of issues and trauma and self-esteem problems within myself that I need to heal. And it's actually quite interesting because there's some new people coming onto my spiritual path. I'm sorry for my dog barking in the background. He's a pain in the ass at the moment and barks every time I've got the camera on. It's like he just waits until the camera is on and then starts barking. So for me, as many have known, I've been going through a lot of changes from a business perspective of being relaunching as a new brand name, and going through those changes in that aspect. Changes in terms of embracing more of my creativity, which in turn has been about embracing the divine feminine. But in that process, there's also been a lot of changes and shifts on my personal life as well, where there's connections that have been there for quite some time that have slowly fallen away, and new ones that are forming in the same process as well. And that's just the natural way things go, especially when you are going so deep on a spiritual journey. But the interesting thing is, some new people that are coming into my world at this point in time are helping me to understand that leadership aspect and to step into that role in a very positive sense, and to start working through the doubts and the fears. And I mean, even doing this video makes me feel like I'm uneasy and talking about these aspects is like, well, it sounds very egotistic to say I'm a leader, because I mean, those of you who've watched all my videos know that I always say take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not here to be your guru. I'm not here to be the be all and end all and say that what I have to say is right or wrong. It's about, you know, just putting the seed in your mind to be able to find the knowledge and wisdom within yourself. But it still makes me feel like, am I too egotistical myself? Am I too much in the ego mind to say that I am a leader? And that's something that I'm working through, and I have realized that it's about nurture within myself and nurturing the divine feminine, because it's the divine feminine is wounded within me. And one thing that I wanted to talk about with this is understanding the balance of masculine and feminine within us, because at this stage on my journey with all of the things that I'm doing, and there's a lot of projects that I'm working on behind the scenes at the moment that I'm really excited with. I mean, I'm always working on projects. I feel like I say that nearly every video. But these are projects that are kind of intertwining with other ones, and they're sort of overlapping with personal growth and also business growth and things like that are all kind of combining. But a big focus at the moment is understanding energy and the energies within us. So divine masculine, divine feminine, also archetypes. I mean, those of you who know me know I have an obsession with understanding psychology and archetypes within the human consciousness and how these energies influence us, even through to mythology and working with deities and you know, ascended masters and all those kind of things, and how they interact with us, whether that be from a spiritual level or from a psychological level, and how these things influence us on the day-to-day. And these are all part of those projects. But one thing I'm learning is how to balance that masculine and feminine within myself and how to heal these things. And these are connecting to many different aspects within my personal journey and my personal life, where I understand where there is trauma, where there is imbalances, and how these things have affected our my day-to-day, and we really don't understand how these things have a big impact. So this is something that I'm really focused on at this point in time, and I'll probably start putting together some information and videos that I'll start sharing. I'm going through a little bit of a restructure with how I want to do my social media, so you'll see that I'm not quite as active here on YouTube at the moment, and that's purely just because I'm taking a step back from the YouTube platform, in the sense of not pushing so much, not putting so much pressure on myself, because as I said, my masculine energy that I've been dealing with, especially with business, is all about doing more, constantly giving more, always feeling like, you know, in order to have growth, that I need to keep giving and keep giving and keep giving. And that in turn has it's obviously worked into a bit of a burnout situation. But also I'm realizing that at the same time, when you're constantly giving and constantly pushing, you're actually not open to receiving. And when it comes to manifestation, when we're trying to work with manifestation and the law of attraction, now I understand it on a logical aspect, and many of us understand it in a logical sense as well, but putting it into practice is a completely different thing. And, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do for a living full time, but I'm not at that point yet. I still have my day job. And, you know, I'm grateful to have that situation where I can balance both the day job and to do this on the side as well, to start building this. I am grateful, especially for the way things are at the moment and how many people aren't in that position. So I will always be grateful for that. But, you know, I am someone who needs to do something that means a lot to me. It needs to light me up, and this is what I'm trying to do, is trying to build something in that regard. But in order to manifest it, I'm now learning that I need to actually release and let go. And I mean, I have a Capricorn rising and a Capricorn stellium, so there's a lot of Capricorn energy, which means I don't like to let go of things. I don't like to let go of control. I like to be in that constant forward momentum. And with the Scorpio sun, which is it's the fixed sign energy, you know, learning how to allow things to be received in my life is something that I struggle with, even down to, and I've noticed that in my day-to-day world with a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment, because, you know, I use myself as a crash dummy with all the stuff that I work on, that I give in terms of information here, and also with a lot of the stuff that I'm working on within my Patreon community as well. I use myself as the crash dummy first, so I understand the energies and how I'm working with things, and a big part of my awareness is realizing just how much I struggle with receiving. And when I say receiving, I mean even down to compliments. Like, it makes me feel uncomfortable, it makes me feel guilty, it makes me feel I don't know how to react, which means that I feel even worse, because then I start overthinking and going, well, now are they going to think that I'm not grateful for it because I haven't reacted in the right way? You know, all of these things. And I know that stems from, you know, trauma in my teenage years and going through bullying and things like that in school, and how it's attached to that. I understand that it's from those childhood memories, but it's connected to that divine feminine component of actually just receiving things and being able to be receptive to energy, which means that I'm now coming into an awareness of how that give and take of energy works when it comes to manifestation, for example. So today, with working with just cooking and, you know, I thought to myself, doing a vlog, filming myself cooking for a day seems very unexciting and very uneventful, especially because, you know, my whole aim has been to take you guys to new locations and forests and places in nature, and, you know, working with that kind of stuff and getting out of the house. And it's been something that I've been struggling with a lot lately as well, just to get out and do these things. I mean, obviously there's small things like we're coming into winter now here in Australia, so the daylight hours are a lot shorter, so I can't do things after work because it's already dark, and that kind of thing. But it's more so just this energy of feeling like I'm obligated or pushing myself to have to do these things, and that comes to that yang energy. And autumn and winter are naturally yin energy, about going within, about being receptive, about doing the reflection. So it's only natural that I'm going to be working on those things. But the cooking and the food aspect is about receiving nourishment and receiving energy, and of actually giving myself permission to give to me in a positive way, because I haven't been nourishing myself in that aspect. So when I thought to myself, you know what, no, I'm going to do it, because, you know, not everyone enjoys cooking, not everyone does cooking, and it may not seem like it's a interesting vlog for a lot of people, but in many ways the vlogs have been my way of documenting things for myself, and a way for me to reflect and hopefully inspire someone in the process. Even if it's just one person who watches something, then, you know, that's my job done. So I guess from here on, I kind of want to say, you know, watch this space, so to speak, which I say a lot too, with where things are going to go, with understanding energies and how things are going to progress, and you know, also just a reminder for everyone to give yourself permission just to be, not to feel like you constantly have to keep doing something, constantly have to be moving forward or taking action, and being more aware of where you sit in your own energy. Just because you identify in a particular way doesn't mean that you're sitting in that particular energy. It could mean that you're like myself, you know, I might be feminine and identify in that feminine aspect, but I sit more in that yang and masculine energy quite a lot, and I'm learning how to be in that feminine energy. So, you know, you may be in a similar situation, or you may be a masculine who identifies more with the feminine, and learning how to balance these things. You know, it's about understanding where you sit in your energy and how this is influencing your life, and also the awareness of certain activities in your day and what energies are present when you're actually working with these activities as well, because it's about being present in the moment and starting to work with the flow of energies within yourself and work with the flow of life, I suppose you could say. So yeah, so I'm gonna stop rambling now because I didn't want to ramble for too long. I guess this was just also a way of me sort of checking in and saying that I'm still here. I'm just a little bit less active here on YouTube at the moment. I mean, my main activity has been for quite some time within the fellowship on Patreon. So if you're, and that's where I share a lot of behind the scenes, and if you guys are interested, I mean, it's a really intense community in terms of a lot of spiritual growth. You know, at the moment we are working with archetypal energy through Avalon. So we've worked with the Green Man, we've worked with Avalon in general and Morgan Le Fay, and we're now moving into working with King Arthur and understanding his energy. So you know, that's a big part of it. We also do full moon and new moon rituals. There is additional readings that I do there. There's always at least one, if not more, a weekly spiritual reading, and usually a bonus reading as well as other support and guidance. There's witchcraft aspects, so spells and rituals. And yeah, the full moon and new moon rituals. And the full moon ritual that we're doing for this Sagittarius blood moon is actually a cacao ceremony. So I did include a little bit of the footage from that in this as well. So just to give you a sneak peek, but that's something I'm super excited about. So if you're looking at joining up, all of the full moon and new moon rituals and the content in terms of the information regarding archetypes and everything is all in the lowest tier, which is only $1 a month. So it's super, super affordable. I wanted to make this community as affordable as possible. So please do consider coming over and checking it out, because I'm really active in that community compared to everywhere else. But I will be probably a little bit more active possibly on Facebook or Instagram. It chops and changes. So if you don't support me on other platforms, make sure you follow me in the description below for all of the other links as well. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here, and I will see you all soon. Bye.